Hello, hi, how are you? What a year January was, eh? And we're halfway through February now. I'm not a person who likes to wish his life away, but I am a summer child, so I do appreciate that this month is so much shorter. We can just skim over the grey bit. Get through it, get to the sunshine, thank you very much. February is just bleak. Short and bleak. Sounds like a dating profile. How topical. Anyway, welcome to this Nervous Bakedown. We've got a cup of tea. It's an English breakfast kind of vibe today. I'm all for being exotic, but some days you just need the classics. Bit like myself. So at time of upload, we are in our last week of skills classes at school. I'm vlogging it, so you'll see that very soon, unless I have a complete breakdown. One of my many breakdowns. Breakdowns are sort of part of my creative process. Sometimes people ask me for advice on how to be creative and make videos and just make things in general. And I say, if you want to follow my routine, you know how like some people like to write following the routine of famous novelists. If you want to follow my routine as a YouTuber, you have to include at least one day to sit down, stare at your computer, say horrid things to yourself, then get up, storm out, and go and walk around a shopping centre. It's just part of my process. Hemingway liked his booze. I like my window shopping for homeware. We all have our things. Now, today on the Bakedown, we are making Nigella's malteser cake from her book Feast. I've made it many times before, but I've started a little project over on the Cozy Club. I've decided I want to make every single cake in Nigella's Chocolate Cake Hall of Fame. I've already done one over there, and I explained why I wanted to do this particular project, so you can go and check that out. But in the meantime, this Malteser one I've made, as I say, many times, so I figured it was perfect for the first Bakedown of 2025. I also thought, since I missed our usual festive catch-up over Christmas, I would make this one a Q&A. So we're going to get into that in a second, but not before I thank this video's sponsor, Wild. I am ecstatic about this because I'm a Wild convert. So they make an array of body and skincare products that are cruelty-free, vegan, natural ingredients. You obviously might be familiar with their deodorant. We love that in Leighton Towers. But what we love more is their commitment to reducing waste. When I started at school, I put together a little pack of essentials that I keep in my locker. I'll walk you through it sometime. But one of those essentials is deodorant because, of course, we're dancing, we're sweating. You better believe we're smelling. But I run through it so quickly and I became so conscious of how much I was using and how much I was throwing away. So I have replaced it with Wild, which means that I'm avoiding that waste completely. I just get to keep this little case, and then there's a refillable, recyclable pack in it that when I'm done with it, I can just switch it out for a new one. Bish bash bosh, I'm ready to go. Ugh! This is their limited edition Valentine's Day case. They also have one with red hearts, and I've just realised they've sent me one that's engraved with a little DJL. That is so cute. And the smell inside is called Love Potion, but they have a whole array of different scents that you can pick and choose from. So you can either stick with one you love, or when you've finished, swap it out for a new one and mix things up a little bit. And they've also sent me this very cute lip balm, which I was not expecting, but I'm very appreciative of, because I don't know if it's just the particular cold of this winter, but my lips are so dry at the moment, and I'm an awful biter. I was hovering around Wild for a very long time. I was like staring at the window, going, should I get involved? Should I get involved? And I'm so glad I've finally taken the plunge. And if you want to join me, I've got a deal for you, mate. You can get 20% off anything from Wild if you use the code DAN2025, and I highly recommend you do. Thank you, Wild, for sponsoring this video. On with the cues! I must say, I'm surprised by the tone of these cues, not because they're unpleasant, but because they're very polite. It used to be the way that I would say, hey, let's do a Q&A, and I would get very specific, almost intrusive levels of questioning. And maybe it's a sign of how much we've grown as a community and as people, but these are all very gentle. I don't know which one I prefer, to be completely honest with you. The most sort of incisive one that we've got here is, how are you doing in yourself at the moment? Which is so lovely. Thank you for asking. I'm doing okay. I'm not doing great. I'm doing okay. They told us that this term was going to be the hardest one, and I think they were underselling it. In fairness, I did choose to do it on extreme difficulty mode. Just as a general thought, I don't know how many of you are going to find yourself in this position, but if you are doing a master's degree at any point and it's as practical and as evolved as mine, maybe don't move house in the middle of it. I say that, but I have also had classmates who have had surgery during this course and had to undergo extensive vocal rehabilitation during this course. So maybe we're just a cohort that takes it on hard mode. Or maybe that's just the nature of this industry. I don't know. Everything is chaotic. There's no perfect time to do anything. That's something I'm learning. Everything in its own time at the right time sometimes does include a time where things are inconvenient, but they have to be done anyway. I feel certain bad brain habits slipping in, and I've been trying to fight them. And it's just been a tricky month. I'll just put it that way. It's just been a tricky month. Self-doubt is very strong, and the voice in my head tells me things like, in all aspects of life, you should stop making videos and stop being on the internet because nobody cares about you. You should drop out of school because you're never going to be good enough to make it in the industry. You should let your relationship go because you're not good enough for her. Very mean voice in your head. They say that you should name the voice who says these things to you so that you have a way of sort of combating that voice with a physical persona. I'm working with Marsha at the moment. I don't like Marsha, not at all. But it's all a learning curve, and I think I just need to focus more on trying to carve out time where I do nothing. I think there is a part of me that feels like I have to be productive because we're doing this course for such a short period of time. It feels like this is the be all and end all. If this doesn't go the way I dream of it going, then what the hell am I gonna do? And that is an unreal amount of pressure to put on myself and the course. So I'm working on trying to find a way to let that go a little bit and just be present in the moment and one eye on the future, but not two eyes on the future and forgetting what's going on here. And yeah, just find a little bit of personal reflective time, whether that is journaling, colouring in, watching the telly, doing precisely nothing. There is I must be doing, and I forget that part of doing is doing nothing. So how am I doing on myself at the moment? Not great, but working on it. Would love some review style thoughts on recent musicals you've seen. Now, one of the reasons I knew that the time had to be now for me to chase this dream is because for the past sort of 5 years or so, I was leaning more into the commentary sphere, whether that be the Wrestle Talk shows or What's On or interviewing people on red carpets and the rest of it, covering the London Film Festival. I was surrounded by people who are so good at talking about pop culture, the way that artistry and filmmaking and television and theatre make us feel as members of the community who go and watch them. Cultural impact. I think criticism is an art in and of itself. It's just not the art that I am cut out for, because I want to be making the things that they are talking about. I want to be involved in the process of making the things that they are talking about. And part of that is making stuff that's not going to be perfect. But you make it anyway, and you put your heart and your soul into it. You put your being into it, even if it's material that you feel is a little bit wobbly. Frankly, I don't want to shit on that, to be honest with you. That's the Ratatouille thing of bad criticism is fun to write and more fun to read. And I know that I can do positive criticism as well, but I feel like if I'm a critic, if I'm going to review things that I've seen recently, you can't just be positive about everything. You have to be honest when you don't like something as well. That's what makes a good critic. And there is something that does not sit right with me about criticizing other creatives' work when I am also trying to be a creative in the industry with them, if that makes sense. It's a respect thing. I think now I want to leave the review style stuff to the people who are very good at doing the review style stuff and be the one who makes the things for them to review. That's where I want to be now. I will always share that I'm seeing something. And this has been something, I've never liked giving bad criticism anyway, but I have always liked to share when I'm seeing something, because even if I go and see a movie and I hate it, if I encourage you to go to the movies, you might go and you might love it. It might turn into your favorite film of all time. Art is subjective. So I will always tell you when I've seen something, and if I absolutely adore something, I will shout it from the rooftops. But reviews generally aren't going to be something that I do because of aforementioned. Maybe it's integrity, I don't know what it is. Yeah, that's where we're at with reviews. Are you feeling settled in the new place? What's your favourite thing about it? With every passing week, I feel a little bit more settled. It's been a whole process and the flat is nowhere near finished, and because we moved into an older flat, there are some teething problems. There were also teething problems in the new build that I moved into 3 years ago, by the way. And there is a part of me that finds that quite frustrating. But bit by bit, we are turning this space into our home. It's been hard because I've been at school all the time. Her indoors has had to go back and forth for some family things. So we've not been here to share in the building flat together adventure, but we're getting there. And I'll tell you one of my favorite things. I was sitting on the couch last weekend and it was so sunny and so beautiful. I was watching the football and the sun was pouring in and it was golden. And even though it is freezing, it felt warm and bright, and I just felt that the image I had in my head when I first came and viewed this flat of how it would be a cozy space for us and how I could imagine us living here, in that moment I really felt it, and it was so nice. I think my favourite thing about it though is where we are. I've moved back to a part of London that I left a few years ago when I didn't really want to but had to, and now I'm back here. The reason I love it here is because it's the longest place I've lived since I went to uni, really, since I left my childhood home. And I don't have a childhood home anymore because all of my family have moved back from the south up to Manchester and they're all in different places and I don't get to see them very often. So this place was kind of my roots. So I love that I'm back here, and I like going to the high street and remembering all the little coffee shops that I used to go into, seeing all the new things that have come up since the last time I lived here. It's really nice, and I think that when you find that, especially in an evolving and bustling and busy and complicated city like London, that's really nice. Which leads us on to, are you a retire in the countryside or stay in the city type of gal? Now, I think I'm a stay in the city boy. I love the evolving nature of a city. I love how it's alive. I like that there's multicultural aspects to it. I like that it's constantly moving. It never feels like it's asleep. I've been trying to avoid saying the word vibe, but I'm afraid I like the vibe of a city. However, the London of now is different to the London when I first moved here 10 years ago, which is different to the London when I was dreaming of living here in the mid-noughties. And part of that is because the city evolves and is always changing, and it should. Part of that is because of the impact of the last, I'm gonna say 15 years of politics and the economy and attitudes towards culture. The nightlife scene in London is deteriorating. The wealth inequality in London is so obvious. And the idea of owning a property here is so far away and to the point of almost feeling impossible. So I can't let myself be wed to the idea of being a city boy forever. I think my heart will always be city boy. I like the fact that I can go to a shop at 10 o'clock at night if I need a pint of milk. But yeah, I just can't wed myself to it because I don't know what, especially now, the economy is going to be like in the next 3 years, let alone the next 5. I did set myself a little goal of I'd like to have saved enough for a deposit by the time I'm 40. Is that reasonable? I don't know. But it's nice to have a goal. And then if you don't meet the goal, oh well, I'm some way towards the goal. We'll see how that goes. That's for a couple of months' time, Dan. The thing that is the most important to me, though, is community. It's a sense of belonging to a space. And it's hard to find that sometimes in the city, especially when you move as often as I have. My last flat was in Wembley, and I love Wembley, and it was such a wonderful experience to live there. But Wembley is a destination rather than a community. It is a place where people go. All those developments were there to rent specifically. You couldn't buy the properties, so it was very transient. There wasn't a lot going on when there wasn't a big event. When there was an event, it was so incredible. Like the Eras tour was such an incredible experience. The Harry Styles tour was so fun. But when they're gone, it's just sort of place. And especially when it came to sort of the end of the year and it was time to bed in and be cozy, what I was missing was the ability to just go around the local community and see the pubs and, you know, shops all lit up for Christmas and things like that. It was just a little bit further away from those things. So wherever I go, whether it's city or a bit further out of the city somewhere in the suburbs, or even I surprise myself when I move to a coastal region in Cornwall, I need there to be a community, a local pub, an amateur dramatics society, a run club. Not that I'm a part of the run club, you understand, but the existence of a run club where this matters to people. I've realised over the past few years that's something massively important to me. So if I can get that in the city, and I feel that in this particular area of the city, so if I can stay here, maybe I will be a city boy for life. But there's a little part of me, and this is, I think, a millennial and maybe even a Gen Z thing as well, that feels that that choice is kind of out of my hands. We'll put a pin in that thought and develop it on another occasion, I reckon. Is what you're doing a one-year course or multiple, and how do you feel about being either? So it's a one-year course. I will finish it in August of this year. On the one hand, that makes it very intensive. That means that in just 6 months' time, really, I will be going off into the big wide world and chasing my dream in a very practical sense. There's something about being in school where you are cosseted, you are looked after, you are, you know, you're inwards and it's very safe. It's like you're wrapped up in cotton wool, even though it's hard, you're being looked after. And then you go off into the big wide world, and that feels very real. And that's where the 1 year element of it slightly feels nerve-wracking because, oh my God, I've only had 1 year of training and I'm supposed to jump off that big high dive board. All these little BAs who are incredibly talented, by the way, and they're so young. They've had all this time and now they're going to go off and leap, and not only are they so talented, they're also young enough to not have this much self-doubt. And they don't have wrinkles, pricks, but they, in terms of practical skills training, have only had 6 more weeks of skills training than we have. So as far as I understand it, we get 12 weeks of skills trainings, and over the course of their 3 years, they get 18 weeks of skills trainings, and the rest of theirs is performance practice, and their entire 3rd year is performance-based. So realistically, the level of training is not that much different. I also am aware that there's a little bit of sort of bias out in the wider world about master's training versus BA training, because BAs have been trained a lot more and master's students haven't. But I went to see Natasha Pierre the other week, and someone from my course, the MA course, was on it, and he's just announced that he's in a new show, and he was in a new show prior to Natasha Pierre, who's so brilliant, by the way. He's booked and blessed, man. So clearly it's possible if you're, you know, driven and committed and talented and you work on yourself. Also, my training is never going to stop. Yes, my training at Mountview will take place over the course of this year, but once I leave there, I'm going to continue having singing lessons, I will take musicianship classes, I'll go to dance classes, I'd like to do short courses here and there to top up skills, like, you know, maybe I'll do a Shakespeare course, maybe I'll do a combat course, I don't know. I'll never stop learning, I'll never stop honing that craft. So how do I feel about it being 1 year compared to multiple years? Honestly, I don't feel anything about that. I'm just ecstatic that I'm doing it. Why did you not take drama at Lincoln Uni, or were you there before it was an option? Well, I did. So I started Lincoln and I was doing film and television and drama as a joint honours degree. And I did the drama course for 1 year. And at the end of the first year, I just decided it simply was not for me. I wanted to go to drama school when I was 18, but I was too nervous and too distracted and too... there was so much going on in 17-year-old Dan's head to actually look into properly what going to drama school meant. Ultimately, I didn't think I was good enough and I was scared of it. So instead, I went to uni and I took drama while I was at uni. I could have the film side, I could have the drama side at the same time. And over the course of that year, I just didn't feel like the course or what I was getting from the course or the people that I was working with really felt like what I wanted to achieve. So I dropped the drama side and just did film and TV as my full degree. And I didn't and don't regret that at any point. I loved the one thing I do regret from my film degree is that I didn't focus in on screenwriting in my final year. I did multi-camera, which was a really fun experience, and I loved the tutors, and I loved certain members of my group as well, who I still talk to this day, but I think screenwriting was something that I loved more than anything else that I learned, and I should have really focused in on that experience. That's the one regret I have. Dropping the drama, I needed to. It wasn't working for me. And it turns out that I needed to go to Mountview in 2024. Who knew? Who knew? I think that's another thing. I actually went and chatted to my drama teacher about it, my A-level drama teacher, when I was making the decision to drop out. I was saying to her, like, what am I doing? Why is this mental? Am I consigning myself to the rubble heap for the rest of my life? And she just sort of was like, things come and go. There is no linear way of doing things. And she was dead right. Because look at me now. Do you have a dream role to be cast in once you come out of school? I feel like I owe it to my 13-year-old self to do everything I can to try and be in Wicked. I'd love to play Fiyero, obviously. I'd love to play Valjean, obviously. There are so many dream roles. The honest answer to the question, the dream role is one where I get to work. At this point, I would love to just say that I've worked. I am a working actor. That's what I'm after. And there's a few other questions as well. People have asked about, do you want to do TV? Do you want to do stage or camera? Which one? Both, either, all. I love acting for camera. We're doing acting for camera classes this term. And I love it. There's something so different about it. It has to be such an insular world. And you have to be alive to it because it's so much smaller. But the actual technique of acting is the similar sort of exercises. The work feels the same. You just have to adapt it because not only are you in that kind of smaller zone, you're also cutting, re-rolling, waiting for lighting to be rejigged. Maybe you're going to have some makeup touched up, but you have to stay in the moment. You have to be present. You have to keep that work alive. I love that. I love the challenge of performing on stage. I love how big you have to be. I love how expressive I need to be with my movement and with my physicality. I love it. I love it, all of it. I just want to be working. So yeah, of course I have dream roles. And yes, of course they're exactly the ones that you think they are. I'd love to do Sweeney Todd. I'd love to do Chess. I'd love to do Passion. I'd love to do Into the Woods. I'd love to do Jesus Christ Superstar. I always joked that I wanted to be in Martin Scorsese's adaptation of Jesus Christ Superstar, which I think would slap. But the longer we do this course, and maybe this is where I'm going to leave it, the more I just want to work. I just want to be grateful. That feels like a nice positive note to leave this video on. I hope you're okay. I appreciate all of your cues. Maybe probe next time. Let's see what happens. Oh God, be careful what you wish for. I will see you very soon. Be good to yourselves and each other. Affection. I don't know how to end videos anymore. Whoa, 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 Past Dan, slow down, hold your horses. Last time you baked something on the internet, you made the cardinal sin of not tasting it afterwards. That's a rookie error, mate. So we've got to fix that. I have a slice of the cake right here. I'll be honest with you. This is the last slice of the cake. I have eaten it all. I have eaten it very quickly. Oh, lads, it's delicious. I have to say, who knows what he's doing? The chocolate cake is it's quite a bouncy one because it's such a liquid batter, but the star, the real star of the piece is the icing. It's vaguely cocoa-y, but it's mostly malty. And when you take a bite of the cake, it literally tastes like a Malteser in your mouth. She's only gone and nailed it. 10 stars to Nigella. I promise all the ones on the Cozy Club, they get a full taste test. I need to be alone with my cake now.